I told you I was going to live here, so why are you in my way? I'll swiftly carry my belongings inside after removing everything superfluous from outside. Outside the store, my mother-in-law angrily declared what she wanted. My husband Sean was standing next to her, and he was just laughing at that point. There was a sound as a black-painted automobile approached. I'm Mia, and I'm 31 years old. I married Sean 4 years ago. When Sean was still a small child, his father died of a disease, leaving his mother to raise him by herself. After completing his studies, Sean secured employment at a nearby manufacturing company. Since he is gentle and soft-spoken and often influenced by others, it is unlikely that he will advance professionally among his aspirational coworkers. Despite working at a cosmetics company after graduating from university, I never gave up on my goal of becoming an esthetician. I went to nighttime beauty school while working. I trained at a prestigious esthetician store after I graduated. I kept chasing this desire because, even as a small child, I felt self-conscious about the appearance of my face and would frequently hear cruel remarks about it. But in high school, I picked up a free trial coupon for an aesthetic procedure while out and about with friends, so I opted to try it that day with one of them. The store smelled good, and it was white and clean. I was looked after by a very lovely esthetician. The home had an immediate appeal that drew me. Despite the fact that her services were gratuitous, she genuinely treated me and listened to my worries. I'll never forget how shocked I was the moment I glanced in the mirror following the procedure. It is our responsibility to solve issues and boost people's confidence, the speaker stated. Her remarks touched me, causing tears to rise up in my eyes. My desire to help people was sparked by this encounter, which is why I chose this line of work. After going on multiple dates and growing closer, Sean and I were introduced by a friend and eventually tied the knot around 2 years into our courtship. Sean is kind but weak-willed, which went nicely with my assertive nature. That was until his mother showed up, anyway. His mother continually asked us to move in with her at her suburban house, which was far away and would require a long commute once we exchanged greetings for marriage. We succeeded in persuading her otherwise, and we began our married life apart. Then, a year ago, I left the company I was working for, fulfilling a long-held desire of mine to create my own aesthetic salon. I used to work 2 part-time jobs, but since I launched my own business, my days are significantly busier than they used to be, which results in more mismatches in Sean and my shared life. Nevertheless, we tried to keep our relationship strong by doing things like having breakfast together and communicating our homecoming schedules. When I got home late one evening, Sean, who would normally be asleep by then, was waiting for me and started speaking earnestly. Actually, Mia, my mother, asked me a question about, he remarked. He disclosed that his mother had to sell our family home due to the overwhelming debt she had accrued. I had to admit that I was surprised. His mother had always lived an erratic life and handled money carelessly. He went on to say that Sean was forced to rely on scholarships for college because his mother had spent the money his father had saved for Sean's tuition. When we were first married, I had firmly refused to live with her because of her extravagant lifestyle. She would have nowhere to live if her house was sold. I was really uncomfortable with this circumstance. "Hey, is it okay if my mother moves in with us?" Sean inquired, but I spoke up before he could say anything more. "It's not feasible. We are just not meant to coexist. Not to be disparaging to your mother, but she would eventually deplete our living funds. Does your mother still have a job? She ought to live alone and rent an apartment with her money." Desperate to avoid living together, I made a strong case to Sean. I hated to be critical of his mother, but I had no choice. Sean answered, "No, really. There are some debts that even the sale of the family home won't be able to pay off. You can't just make that decision." "Mia, I get what you're saying." I was dubious of his statement. "I take back what I said earlier, and I'll talk to her about living on her own." When I'm around, Sean always seems to agree with me, but when his mother sees him, he freezes up. I was scared to death that his mother would make us move in together. As expected, I got a call from his mom the following day. "This is horrible, Mia," she questioned. "Do you really detest the thought of living with me so much? When you two first got married, I held back because I thought you were newlyweds, but this time it's inevitable. I'm going to lose my house soon. What kind of terrible daughter-in-law are you to abandon a mother, even if we are not connected by blood?" My mother-in-law gave me harsh criticism. I apologize, but I have to disagree. We are unable to provide another room because our house is too tiny for the two of us. I reassuringly told my mother-in-law, but my composure just made her more irate. It is not appropriate for a wife to disobey her husband's orders. She responded, "I'll retrain you to be a proper wife, so be ready," and hung up the phone quickly. This was just another justification for my refusal to cohabitate. I've always been troubled by my mother-in-law's controlling nature, Sean's tendency to lose herself in her aggressiveness, and becoming docile is always annoying. Even though it was still early in the morning, my mother-in-law visited our home the following day. "Are you there, Mia, Sean?" Without using the intercom, she yelled, "I've come to talk, so open up quickly," and pounded on the door. I quickly allowed her inside, thinking she would be a disturbance to the neighbors, but she disregarded me and went directly to wake Sean, who was still asleep. Next week is when I have to relocate out of that house. Regarding this daughter-in-law, don't worry. She slapped Sean on the back and added, "Start getting ready quickly for my sake." I couldn't just watch and wonder how a mother could treat a man over 30 in this way, though. I interrupted, "Mom, please calm down a bit," to which she sent me a glare. "What can I do to relax? You are to blame for this predicament. It's a result of your egotism," she angrily remarked. There was tension in the air between us. Observing the scene, Sean apologized to his mother. "I'll work things out. Just give it a little more time," and all of a sudden started to apologize sincerely. When I saw how miserable he was, I was astounded. My mother-in-law appeared to be fairly pleased with his response, though. "You still have a week left. Make sure you resolve it by then," she remarked before walking away. "Sean, what exactly are your plans, and why are you acting so helpless?" I pushed him and asked. Sean got upset, clearly. "Mia, please keep quiet. Would you please be a little more understanding?" he yelled. "Why am I always the one getting blamed?" before pulling a blanket over his head. It was the first time Sean had raised his voice, and I started to worry that something strange could occur this time. My suspicion was correct. The following week, as directed by my mother-in-law, things got worse. She did something unexpected with Sean. As president, I had an appointment at the bank that morning and was scheduled to visit the business in the afternoon. I had left the preparations to my workers because the store opens in the afternoon. But before we opened, I got a call from my employees alerting me to a significant problem at the business and pleading with me to attend right away. I hastened to the store after altering my plans. I was shocked to see Sean and my mother-in-law moving around inside with assurance when I got there. "What are you doing?" "Please go. Customers will be arriving shortly," I remarked. In the store, there were multiple beds divided by dividers, but my mother-in-law was laying on the beds, taking measurements. "What topic are you discussing? I take it that this is a viewing? This room is ideal for me, and there are beds here. I'll use at least half of it, even though I don't need it all. You shouldn't worry because it is discreet and prepared for privacy. However, this bed is not very big. I'll utilize 2 of them," she declared, putting 2 beds together on her own. Sean was surprisingly grinning and supporting her idea. "What's this, Sean? It is not something I can permit to move here." I begged, "If this is a joke, stop it now." However, I was perplexed by Sean's and my mother-in-law's unexpected behavior. A credibility problem can arise if it turns out that someone is genuinely residing at the esthetician store. My store has received great reviews, but I could not let their self-centered behavior jeopardize that standing. "Please get out of here. We have a lot of reservations as we get ready to launch our business. I'll notify the authorities if you don't leave." I yelled. When Sean and my mother-in-law heard the term police, they became a little uneasy. "Let's leave it at this for today." "But I'm short on time," she exclaimed. "I am definitely planning to live here," and she and Sean walked away. I hurriedly cleaned and organized the store while apologizing to the employees. My mother-in-law's outrageous behavior was something I had expected, but I did not anticipate Sean engaging in such behavior. This fact stunned me greatly. Sean's look made it obvious that he had chosen to support his mother. Sean never made it home that evening. I pondered whether Sean was trying to avoid me or if he had just lost interest in what had transpired. Still, I had to make sure that something like this didn't happen again, so I called Sean. "Hello." "Sean." "Ah, hello." Sean sounded reluctant to speak. "Please tell me today's actions of your mother were a joke. If she starts living in the store, it will be ruined instantly. As you know, this store thrives on customer trust. If your mother tries anything strange again, you must stop her. Do you understand?" Sean didn't respond to my firm words and hung up the phone. Seeing his reaction, I realized something. Sean couldn't resist his mother's constant pressure and ultimately chose to stand by her. It seemed psychologically easier for him to comply with his mother's demands. He had a problem with dependency on his mother, but this meant that a real crisis was looming for my store. I was deeply troubled. How should I protect the store I love? I spent the night thinking about it, and before I knew it, it was morning. The next day was a day off for my salon, but driven by a bad premonition, I went to the store. As I nervously cleaned, suddenly a large truck stopped in front of the store. I instinctively sensed something and rushed outside to see movers beginning to unload furniture and preparing to bring it into the store. When I questioned the workers, indeed the requester was my mother-in-law, and they were trying to bring her furniture into the store. "Please wait. I cannot accept this here." I firmly protested, but the workers showed no sign of halting their tasks. Naturally, they were just doing their job and had to complete the work they were requested to do. I managed to convince the workers to pause their activities temporarily and hurriedly contacted someone for help. As the workers had other schedules to attend to, they were confused by the interruption and seemed to be contacting my mother-in-law. It appeared that she and Sean would be arriving soon. Eventually, my mother-in-law and Sean appeared. "Why are you interfering with me? Since I said I'm going to live here, I will take everything unnecessary outside and quickly bring in my stuff," my mother-in-law commanded. "That's right. Mom is going to live here starting today," Sean added with a chuckle. Although confused, the workers had to act within the limited time and began following my mother-in-law's orders to move things outside. "Stop doing as you please," I shouted. Just then, a black luxury car stopped behind the truck. A large man wearing a double-striped suit and a stylish hat pulled down low stepped out of the car. His commanding presence was immediately noticeable, and he exuded an aura that was clearly no ordinary. The man approached with a deep voice. "What's all this commotion? Isn't this disturbing the neighborhood? Is this not Mia? Are you having some trouble?" "Yes, I am having trouble with people trying to take over my shop and live here," I responded. Hearing this, the man looked towards my mother-in-law and Sean and calmly asked, "It seems there is some sort of trouble here. Is there a reason for this?" Overwhelmed by the man's presence, my mother-in-law mustered the courage to retort, "What are you talking about? Don't meddle in family matters. This woman is my daughter-in-law. So what's the problem with moving into her house?" At that moment, the man gently removed his hat and said, "I see. That's what this is about. My daughter has always been well taken care of by you. I hear about it often. Sean, it's been a long time," he said with a warm smile. "Father-in-law," Sean stepped back in surprise. This man was, in fact, my father. His appearance was far from ordinary, and Sean had always been intimidated by my family. We didn't have a wedding ceremony, only a meeting between the families. Since then, my father and my mother-in-law had not met. At the meeting, my mother-in-law and Sean were so intimidated by my father's presence that they left hastily without much conversation. It seemed my mother-in-law did not remember his face. Father-in-law, odd, it's been a while. My mother-in-law was sweating profusely. No, I haven't said anything significant. I just brought over some belongings because I thought I could live in Mia's shop. I haven't caused trouble for anyone, my mother-in-law explained to my father while urging the workers to continue. You intend to live here? I can't permit that, my father said sternly. I own this building. The first floor is rented out as Mia's aesthetic salon, and my daughter and I have a formal contract as the landlords and business operators. It is not permitted to use this place as a residence. If violated, you will need to vacate immediately. Mia, unfortunately, I have just witnessed a violation. According to the contract, you must vacate immediately. My father's gaze was piercing. I, too, could feel the overwhelming authority in his eyes. I understand. I cannot make any excuses for this violation. We will vacate immediately, I responded. My father nodded heavily and turned his gaze to my mother-in-law and Sean. As you heard, I have just agreed with the tenant to terminate the lease. If you enter here again, I will have to call the police. As you are now outsiders, please leave this place. We will now proceed with the lease termination. Saying that, he led me inside the shop, and we closed the shutter in front of my mother-in-law and Sean. My mother-in-law and Sean stood there dazed for a while, but soon I could hear them arguing with the movers. As I listened to the sounds, the movers, needing to rush to their next job, eventually left the belongings on the roadside and departed. Sean, you handle this for now. Bring it to our apartment, my mother-in-law instructed. Following her orders, Sean hurriedly arranged a rental car and began transporting the belongings to our apartment. Watching through a gap in the shutter, I said, "It turned out just as expected. They're heading to our apartment. I'm glad I acted promptly. Thank you, Dad." My father's stern demeanor softened, and he showed a smile. Maybe I went a bit too far. Despite his intimidating appearance, my father is actually a very kind person. He dresses this way due to his fondness for gangster films, but he is usually a friendly local real estate agent. They're sure to be surprised when they arrive at the apartment. My father and I exchanged looks and chuckled quietly to ourselves. In reality, all the furniture and household items from the apartment had already been removed, leaving only Sean's personal belongings behind. After a while, my mother-in-law called, clearly distressed. "What happened? The room is empty. Where is the furniture?" Her voice was agitated and angry. I responded calmly and deliberately, "I have terminated the apartment lease. I was the leaseholder and I made the payments, so it was within my rights to cancel it without any issue. The apartment is owned by my father, and we plan to dispose of any remaining belongings as abandoned property and change the locks soon. If you don't collect the personal items quickly, you'll have to meet my father again." Her voice trembled upon hearing my father's name. "So what? Where have you moved to? Let us come there. Won't you let us stay with you?" I answered with a snort, "I have just decided to divorce Sean, and we will not live together anymore. I recently told Sean that if you interfere with my shop, I would seek a divorce. He agreed, and I have kept his response as evidence. Due to the influence of you and Sean, I can no longer continue my aesthetic business in this building. Therefore, based on the agreement with Sean, I am proceeding with a divorce. As for the furniture, it belonged to me since before our marriage, and it is only natural that I take it all." Upon hearing this, my mother-in-law began yelling at Sean, who was next to her. "How can you so easily agree to such a serious decision as divorce? The situation obviously required appropriate handling." I could hear Sean exclaim in surprise, "Eek!" I advised them, You should not prolong this issue and look for a new place to live instead," and hung up. Following that, Sean and my mother-in-law had a difficult time finding a new place to live and ultimately had to rent a house from far-off relatives. Due to the difficulty of his commute, Sean quit his job and took a part-time job at a remote deli, all the while trying to pay off his mother's debts. In the meantime, I was able to move into my father's house right away. Regarding the lease termination of the aesthetic shop, it was a ruse. In actuality, business as usual is carried out. My aesthetic business has now become extremely successful, drawing in celebrities, and become so sought after that reservations are hard to come by. We extend a warm welcome to guys, and I treat my father to a variety of cosmetic services on a regular basis. He feels a little more like the actor he has always liked, even though he is getting close to 70, thanks to the frequent treatment his skin receives at our shop. These events have made me once again realize how important it is to instill confidence in every client. I can very clearly remember my first free cosmetic procedure from high school. That day's exhilaration and newfound sentiments still motivate me in my daily work. I learned from that event what I ought to provide from my dealings with several clients. And sometimes I think about Sean. Perhaps he could have had a different future if he had been more confident in himself. It was hard to give him the necessary support, even though we were so close. I've learned from his case how difficult it can be to provide unbiased assistance because of proximity. If Sean comes back to our aesthetic business in the future, I will deal with him objectively and do everything in my power to help him reach his full self-confidence potential. It would mean a great deal to me if I could give him the confidence to move forward. It's focus on personal cleanliness. As a result, a large number of clients have helped us.